Hey, this is Mike from Inputflow, and in this video I'm going to show you everything that you need to know about calculations and variables in Inputflow. So right here I have a food delivery form or a pizza delivery form, which is already mostly set up, at least the multi-step functionality. And you can see the form right here. This is the live form, and you can see I can already click through the form. I can make selections, how large I want my pizza to be, what dough I want for the pizza, what cheese I want to have, and a lot more options. But what you might have noticed is down here it says current price. And this current price, ideally what I want is whenever I make a selection, for example, if I select mozzarella, where it says plus $1, I want to add $1 to the current price. But right now, no matter what selection I make, the price doesn't change. It always stays at 0. And that is because I have not yet set up any calculations for this form. So let's do this together. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Whenever we want to perform a calculation, we always need to have a variable that we perform this calculation on. So a variable you can think of is the place where we store the result of the calculations. And to see which variables you have in your form, you can click on this form settings icon at the top right, and then click on variables. And here you can see the list of all the variables in your form. Right now, I have price and score variables. These are the default variables that you will find in every form. So whenever you create a new form with Inputflow, by default, this price and this score variable will be part of it. You can delete them if you don't need them, you can rename them, you can do whatever you want. You can also add a new variable and give this whatever name you want to give it. But in this case, I'm just going to delete the score variable and keep the price variable, because that is what we're going to work with now. So we have one variable called price, and the data type is number. Let's close this again and go back to the live form. Our first step is the step called select your pizza size. So the first step after the welcome step. It's the step called select your pizza size. And we have three options: small, medium, and large. The small option is 850, the medium one 10, and the large one 1250. Okay, so let's set up that calculation. I click on the associated step, pizza size, click on the calculations tab, and click on create calculation. And now I have created a new calculation. And as you can see here, it says run the following calculation, which we now have to define. And then we also have to define a condition for that calculation. So let's run the following calculation, price. Then we want to choose the operation, plus, and in this case it was 850, if the pizza size, so this is the condition now, is small. And this is how we can set up the first calculation. Let's add the second calculation. We want to take the price and add, so plus 10, if the pizza size is medium. And we want to do the same thing for the large pizza, take the price and add 1250 to it if the pizza size is large. And this is how you can set up basic calculations. Let's take a look at this and see if it works on the live side. So I'm going to reload my form, click on configure your pizza. And now, as you can see, if I click on small, the current price is 850. If I click on medium, the current price is 10. And if I click on large, the current price is 1250. So the calculation works for this step. And now the only thing that we have to do is we have to keep going. We have to do the exact same thing for all of the other steps. So let's close this step, go to the next step, the pizza dough, and create a calculation. Let's take a look here. So the wheat is for free, but the gluten-free and the rice dough option, they are 150. So we want to run the following calculation, price plus 150 if the pizza dough is gluten-free. And now we're just going to chain the condition, or if the pizza dough is rice dough. And now you can read this like an English sentence. Run the following calculation: price plus 150 if pizza dough is gluten-free, or if pizza dough is rice dough. And this is how the calculation will work. So let's take a look at it. Let's reload the page. Configure your pizza. We already have the calculation here. Let's select the medium one for $10. And now, as you can see, if I select the wheat option, nothing happens to the price. But if I select the gluten-free option, it says $11.50. And the same for the rice dough option. It also says $11.50. So this is the basic idea of how you can perform calculations. Now, in some cases, you might want to do a calculation without any condition. So you always want to run that calculation. And if that is the case for you, if that is a requirement for you, all you have to do is, when you create the calculation, click on Create Calculation, and then just click the cog icon from the condition and delete the condition. And as soon as you do that, it says always run the following calculation. Then you can set up a calculation, I don't know, for example, price plus, I don't know, let's say price plus tip amount. Now, if someone wants to give a tip, we want to always want to add the price plus the tip amount, just as a random example. And if you say, oh, I want to add a condition again, I don't want to always run it, just create the condition again, and then you have the default setup. Okay, let's delete this because I don't need this here. And obviously you can do much more than just adding things to a variable. In this case, we always add a monetary amount to the price because that's just what makes sense in this case. But you have a lot of different mathematical operations available here. You can subtract something from a variable, you can multiply, divide, set the variable to a certain value, you can add a certain percentage. So you could say add 50%, subtract 50%, things like that. So you have a lot of different options right here. And obviously you could also add user input. So if the user has an input field, for example, a number input field, you could select this input field right here, as we did with the tip amount, and say, oh, we want to add the price plus whatever the user put into the form. So that's also possible. But let's delete this again, because in this case, we want to add 150 to the price variable. And you could do that for the rest of the form as well. I'm not going to do that now, but you get the idea. This works exactly the same for the rest of the form. One more thing that might be relevant for you and interesting to you is you can perform calculations two ways. So you can perform a calculation inside a block, inside of a step block, like we did for the first two steps right here. We set up the calculations inside of the step. But what you could also do is, if you want to do a lot of calculations at once, for example, at the end of a form before you want to show a user the result, you could add in a calculation block. So you would delete, in this case, I would delete this connection, and you would add in a calculation block. And this way you can kind of separate your calculations and put them all in one single place if you only want to show a result in the end. And then you would just click on the calculation block and then create the calculations the exact same way that we just did. And some of you are probably now thinking, okay, this is all really interesting, but how do you display the price inside of the form so that it changes and updates live as the user modifies their selection? I'm going to talk more in depth about this in another video, but basically all you have to do, like a little short explanation of that, in any text element inside your form, just write add square brackets and the name of the variable. And this means when the form is loaded, this at square brackets name of the variable will display the price. So this is the general idea. If you have a variable called, let's say you have a variable called result, and you want to display this inside of this text here, you would write at square brackets and then result. And then it would display the result, the value of the result variable right here as soon as the form is loaded.